Hey y'all, I'm Holly Long, and for my presentation, I'm going to be discussing Freud and B.F. Skinner and their theories in a Christian perspective. So, for some background first, Freud actually started off as a physician. He went to medical school, started to work with patients with physical nerve damage, realized that some of them didn't actually have physical damage, but they showed symptoms, and so that led him to want to discover what is going on in their mind and mental illnesses. And at that time, people with mental illness didn't get a whole lot of attention. They were sent to asylums and whatnot. But Freud set himself out directly to actually discover the root of people's mental disorders, which was a big deal for psychology. Freud focused his attentions on the unconscious parts of the mind. So he believed the mind was like this iceberg, and the top that's seen above the water is our small conscious mind, while underneath lurks this large unconscious mind. And this was the basis of his psychoanalysis. He believed that the answers to our mental disorders and our anxiety and our stress resided in our subconscious. He believed there were three parts to the personality: the id, ego, and superego. He believed that the id was our innate biological tendencies, our urges for sex, for reproduction, for aggression, and these are what kind of determine our basic needs and wants. While the superego is our morality. And our ego is kind of our learned personality that tries to mediate between the needs of the id and the superego. He believed that mental disorders stemmed from the conflict that arises between these three, the id, ego, superego, fighting for control. Due to this, some people would repress stressful memories or thoughts, leading Freud to want to understand the underlying unconscious events that led to this anxiety. So he was really important because he brought some much needed attention to these patients that had those unseen disorders. And he created a method to study the unconscious, like with his free association, and set up a science for it. He also operationalized the concept of repression, creating a way to study it and perhaps even unleash it to help heal people. So from a Christian perspective, Freud exhibited the idea of humans' innate sinful nature. And so we are all sinful. We all have tendencies of sin and are tempted by evil. So for example, Romans 3:23, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Jeremiah 17:9 says the heart is deceitful. And Mark 21:23 says, 7:21-23 says, For from within, out of the heart of man, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, and so on. He believed that humans are constantly in this struggle trying to fulfill their destiny by moving towards good and moving towards the morality of superego and leaving behind our less rational, more biological tendencies of the id. And he explains this constant tension. And this is very present in the Bible and in our Christian life. All humans have this struggle between good and evil and to overcome our sinful nature. From our nature, back from Adam and Eve, we all are sinful. But it is our constant daily struggle to fight against those temptations and look towards more having the Holy Spirit guide us. This is in this struggle trying to fight between this temptation and our good does produce anxiety and depression and guilt. And so Freud was right in that sense, that the conflict within us can cause certain mental disorders. For example, everyone is tempted. Like in Matthew 6:13, it says, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Humans must go through this inner conflict to determine their personality, to plan their actions, to fight against the temptation, and try to let their superego, which could be related to our spirit within us, fight for the good against our natural tendencies of a sinful nature. And the only way to really fight against our id, that is described as that I'm describing as our sinful nature, even though Freud didn't technically describe it as sinful nature, but that's basically what he was saying, is to let the Holy Spirit guide us and have our spirit reach out towards the Lord. So, moving on to B.F. Skinner. He researched the idea of operant conditioning, which is this type of learning that relies on the idea of reinforcement and punishment. He experimented this idea with rats in a chamber where he inserted these levers, and rats, by pressing them down or moving them, would release a treat. So he became interested in the idea of reinforcing behavior and creating new behaviors through that reinforcement. He explained that there's two different kinds of reinforcement, positive and negative. Positive is where you apply a pleasurable stimulus, and negative is where you take away something painful. And then there's also positive and negative punishment. So positive punishment is where you apply something negative to someone to reduce a behavior, and negative punishment is where you take away something good to reduce behavior. So reinforcement tries to reinforce a behavior, punishment tries to diminish it. So, Skinner it was important to counseling because he brought this new idea of how people can actually change their habits and change their behaviors. This actually can help addicts lose their addiction by learning a new behavior and learning how to deal with it, like quitting smoking. He also could help students learn in school by reinforcing certain studying behaviors and helping teachers understand how to reinforce and punish students. This could also help with OCD and phobias by getting rid of bad habits and learning new good ones. From a Christian perspective, there is an action reward and action punishment aspect of Christianity that Skinner was able to capture in this way. There's many scriptures about rewarding good behavior, like, for example, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart, Psalm 37:4. And behold, I'm coming soon, bringing my recompense with me to repay what everyone has done, Revelation 22:12. Now, there's also the action punishment aspect of Christianity too. Like, for example, in 2 Corinthians 5:10, for we all must appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive what is due for what he has done in the body, whether good or evil. So Skinner's theory was very beneficial in understanding learning, human development, interaction, by relating to this innate nature of this relationship we have with God, right? God encourages us to have good behavior and rewards that good behavior, and he discourages the negative behavior as well. And so Skinner and our biblical scriptures both agree on the need for this reward punishment based system to change behavior. So now he didn't actually focus on our innate sinful nature. He focused directly on our more malleable nature of being able to change our behavior. So to sum up, Freud basically focused more on our innate biological tendencies, which could be related to our sinful nature, right? But he didn't really focus on being able to really change our behavior and prevent that. It's more of discovering our tendencies, our inner conflicts, and dealing with that conflict, right? While Skinner focused on the fact that we can actually change our behavior and how God rewards good behavior and how our bad behavior is discouraged. So both are very important and both highlight different aspects of the Bible. You know, Freud, our sinful nature, our inner conflict against temptation, trying to let the Holy Spirit guide us, and Skinner showing us how we can all change our behavior and grow as a person. So I just want to say thank you and have a good night.